Coming up next, who's your favorite Mama Rose and Gypsy? Our panel debates Broadway's greatest Mama Roses, from Merman to MacDonald. Then biographer Carolyn Quinn reveals the ballsy life of the real Rose Hovick, the mama that inspired them all. Hello, I'm Patrick Pacheco. Welcome to Theater All the Moving Parts. Everything's coming up roses today as we explore one of Broadway's most enduring masterpieces, Gypsy, as it prepares for its fifth revival starring six-time Tony Award winner Audra McDonald.
1998's Tony for Best Featured Actress in a Musical goes to Audra McDonald.
Thank you, everybody in Ragtime. Thank you, Broadway.
She has conquered every performance category, from her breakout role in Carousel to triumphs in Masterclass, Ragtime, Porgy and Bess, and Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill.
I had a dream.
Now she takes on one of musical theater's most demanding roles, the quintessential stage mother, Mama Rose. We begin the show with a lively gabfest about one of theater's most popular musicals with our panel of opinionated experts. Ruthie Thierberg of Broadway News, author Michael Riedel, actor-writer Andrew Chappelle, and critic Juan Ramirez of Theaterly. Welcome, Andrew. Welcome, Ruthie. Welcome, Juan. And Michael, I should say, welcome back to your Harmonia Gardens.
Hello, Patrick. You're looking swell, Andrew. It's so nice to be with Ruthie after all these years. And you're looking great, too.
Well, thank you. That's off to a musical start to discuss one of the greatest musicals ever written. With songs by Julie Stein and Stephen Sondheim, it is back on the boards in a new production directed by George C. Wolfe and starring Audra McDonald, Danny Burstein, and Joy Wood. It is the fifth Broadway revival since it opened in 1959, and it seems like we need a Gypsy once every 12 years. I'd like to start by asking you what makes it so durable. But first, Ruthie, help us out and tell us what it is about.
Well, it's based and inspired by the memoir of Gypsy Rose Lee, who was a famous stripper and elevated the art of stripping and burlesque. But it really comes down to her relationship with her mother, Madame Rose. And the story begins in the time of vaudeville in the 1920s, when Rose is a single mother to two daughters, and the way she's going to get by in the world is by making them stars. And she puts together an act, and she is the quintessential momager, and it is their journey through the backstages of vaudeville, the Orpheum circuit, scraping by, sometimes not scraping by.
It is considered the King Lear of the American musical theater. That's why so many great actors have wanted to dig into it, starting with Ethel Merman, then Angela Lansbury, Tyne Daly, Bernadette Peters, Patti LuPone, and now Audra. Andrew, in your opinion, what makes the show so durable?
Well, what I just heard is that Madame Rose is Kris Jenner.
Right.
Yeah. What makes it durable to me is because it is this great mountain for an actress to climb, right? We all go to see, can they do it? What will they do with it? There's so much within the piece, the architecture of the piece, to see whose Rose is your Rose, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, what is Patti LuPone going to do with Rose? What is Audra McDonald going to do with Rose? The whole show can transform based on who plays this part. And so I think that's what keeps people going back to see it time and time again. And that's why people are going to go and see Audra McDonald do it, because we've never seen Audra McDonald do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Michael, what makes it durable in your opinion?
It plays a fascinating trick on the audience. It begins as a standard book musical where you see somebody who really wants something. Mama Rose, she wants her daughters to succeed. She wants to be in show business. And the traditional musical would play out. The obstacles are put in the way. They will overcome them, and they will succeed in the end. But by the end of the musical, what we realize it is about how unbridled ambition leads to rack, ruin, child abuse, emotional child abuse, and in the end for Mama Rose, not succeeding and being completely alone. And it pulls that trick. And you think you're in for a musical comedy because it's bright and shiny with those great Julie Stein tunes, and by the end you realize how dark and brutal that show really is.
It's not a happy ending at
No.
all. Juan?
It's also perhaps the best overture of all time.
Yeah. You really put your finger on it.
You know, every song is probably better than the last. And also, I think something building on what you said, every character has very clearly defined intentions, if not an outright I want song. So everyone is constantly hungry.
But I at least gotta try. When I think of all the sights that I gotta see at all the places I gotta play, all the things that I gotta be at. Come on, Papa, what do you say?
Everyone is constantly telling you or each other or themselves what it is they want and how they think they're gonna achieve it. And I think it's interesting, of course, to watch people go for what they want.
Often just to be noticed.
Sure.
Ruthie?
Like Andrew was saying, part of the durability is its timelessness, that we can look to our generation of the Kris Jenners, or you can look to Brooke Shields and her mother a few decades ago. Like we're always looking at the Mama Rose of our age. But I think what makes the musical durable, not just the story, is its construction. Yes to that score, but the book is so economical in how it portrays the richness in these characters and women, really, right?
Yeah.
We put women front and center and what an ambitious woman looks like, and I still think we haven't figured that out. But if you're going to capture Gypsy and what is it about, what do they all want, is recognition. Mama, I wanted you to see me. I could have been in lights, there weren't lights bright enough, I think is what makes it durable for any audience and for all time.
I wonder why it's called a musical fable. That's its subtitle. Why is it a fable? Anybody?
Well, I mean, fables usually have animals in them, but there is also usually a moral to a fable. And I feel like what you said about fame, you know, what is fame? What is this quest for fame? What does it cost you? Are you willing to pay the toll for the fame? And I feel like we get to see a version of that play out in Gypsy. You know, there's something inherently American about this story, about someone who is trying to rise from the ranks of where they began in this life. You know, Mama Rose is just trying to provide a life for her children that she did not have for herself.
The cynic in me, I think fable may have been a word that David Merrick put in the poster in the title because he wanted people to buy what they thought would be a fun musical comedy. Because fable is a positive word. You can't call it a musical Brothers Grimm, right? So
Right.
you put fable there, and people, you know, the mainstream audience back in those days thought, well, we're going to see Ethel Merman. That's the key too, right? Ethel Merman.
Well,
because Ethel Merman never played a character like that. She played durable, lovable,
Right.
in-your-face people.
Call me
so
madam.
If you've got Ethel Merman in a musical fable, you think you're getting Call Me Madam.
I do think,
Yeah,
I
go
do
ahead.
think fable is apt because fable is a genre that has very sort of easily sketched characters, the pushy mom, the pretty daughter, the daughter in the sidelines, but uses those characters to really dig into this profundity about the human spirit. And sort of going off what you said about it being a very American tale, reminded me I just saw Gats at the Public Theater. These are works set in the first few decades of the 20th century in the US when the nation was sort of codifying its spirit. And it is sort of this looking back at this collapsing empire and trying to hold back. You know, Mama Rose says she was born too soon and started too late. So there's this very sort of appealing sense of always trying to get back to the past.
And obviously, Louise is a Cinderella story, the ugly duckling story. It is a fairy tale.
So it's also a rise and fall, Star is Born narrative.
The only reason this exists in many ways is that Merman read the book that it's based on, that you brought up, Ruthie, and said, I want to play the mama.
mother.
And as soon as she said that, then the ball started rolling.
Well, David Merrick had read an article in Harper's, which was an excerpt of the book, and then he gave the book to Ethel Merman, and she said, "I'll kill anybody who gets in my way."
Right there, the casting happened.
There
right?
you are. That's right. That's right. My God, poor Bernadette Peters. If Ethel were around, she'd be flattened.
Steamrolled.
She'd be shorter than she is. The key, though, is Jerome Robbins, and this was Arthur told
The
me.
director, choreographer.
Yes.
of course.
So Jerome Robbins comes in, and he wants to bring the team from West Side Story, which was Steve Sondheim, Arthur Lawrence, and Bernstein. But Bernstein had moved into the concert world, so they were looking for a composer. And Jerry had a completely different idea for the show. He was going to create what we now call a concept musical. It was not going to be a book musical. It was going to be all of vaudeville and burlesque and all of the acts, animal acts, magic acts, all these acts. And it was going to be a swirl of all the acts you would see back in those days. And he and Arthur had a big fight over it. And Arthur said, but the point is this woman's obsession with pushing her daughters into the spotlight. And you're never going to be able to create that in this concept. So Jerry backed off, and Jerry came to hate the show. And he kept saying to Arthur told me this, he would say, "It's your show, it's a book show. It's a book show."
And
It is a book
Arthur
show.
made sure, having directed 3 of the 5 revivals,
That's right.
Arthur made sure it remained a book.
That's right.
But
book show.
interestingly, Jerome Robbins' choreography was reproduced in every single one of those revivals. The
Well,
one that-
it has to be because it's in a lot of
well, but
copyrights.
we're about to get the first
one that doesn't have it.
one that doesn't have Jerome Robbins' choreography with Camille
It's
A.
going
Brown
to be
choreography.
Camille A. Brown. The interesting thing about it as well is that Stephen Sondheim had been pushing to be composer and lyricist. And Merman said, there's no way, having just come off of a flop called Happy Hunting, she said, there's no way I'm going to take a chance on this pipsqueak. And so finally landed on Julie Stein. Oscar Hammerstein said, look, Steve, I know you want to write the music, but learn to write for a star, and that is how it happened. You've all mentioned The Great Construction, and it is considered one of the greatest books in the musical theater, Arthur Lawrence's book. What's the flaw? What are the flaws?
In rewatching, so I just watched the filmed version of Imelda Staunton Gypsy from London. So granted, it's a London production, but I do think, the material is, you can only continue to say that the material is unbreakable if you can do it everywhere and with anyone, and it is unbreakable. So I will say that, and I don't mean to pick on this production, but I think that it illuminated for me, I don't know about the relationship between Herbie and Mama Rose. Why does he fall in love with her at the beginning? Because she's a woman with children? I don't know that flies today. That's enough?
It may not fly today. It may have flown then.
Right.
Speaking about recorded versions, one of the ones I love is the Bette Midler one from the early 90s. And I think it comes through best in that one in that he is lying to himself just as everybody else is lying to themselves.
Herbie, just keep helping me like you've been helping. Just let me get June's name up in lights so big, it lasts my whole life.
Rose, what you expect?
I'll get. And after I get it, I promise I'll marry you. I even promise to keep my promise. Oh, Herbie, I don't want to upset anything before the audition tomorrow, including your stomach.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I think it's one of the lies that the people in the cast tell themselves, and
Right.
finally it breaks.
I mean, I think he is as deluded about her as the audience is in the beginning. He admires the ambition and the drive, and she's funny. She's great fun to be around, and he is just having the time of his life with her. And then it dawns on him that fundamentally she's a monster, and I can't be there. And by the way,
Although I will just say, we do call her the monster character. We call her the King Lear. We call her, all these things. And I will say, I don't think she's a monster. I think
Oh, no, I don't either.
She's a wild mess, and she absolutely abuses her daughters emotionally. But I don't know that makes her a monster.
well, the abuse is a
entirely.
little horrible.
Andrew, what were you?
Oh, it's absolutely.
Yeah,
But
this is what excites me about this revival because I think historically black women are mischaracterized as aggressive and angry in our country. And I feel like with Mama Rose, this word monster gets thrown around a lot, which is what I loved about when Patti LuPone did it. She was just like, I don't think she's a monster. I think she's just like focused on her kids. And I'm thinking like, okay, Mama Rose is a single mother trying to raise her kids. She's not thinking about this man. She's thinking about getting her kids forward. And to me, yes, are there some things that she does that are, you've said
Despicable?
are, yes, of course.
Certainly.
But we don't know the sacrifices a lot of our parents made for us. So I can sit here and talk to you in this television studio.
I
And I don't really want to know all of them either.
But I do think that's the tension that an actor must play, but I do think that role must serve as the monster of the piece.
Yes, yes.
For example, and I'm wary of shows that try to humanize
Exactly,
old
that was-
ones. I saw, for example, a Kennedy Center production of Sunset Boulevard last year, which tried to humanize Norma, and I'm like, well, what are we doing now?
Exactly. I think that's what we can do in the Bernadette Peters issue. I think that's what they tried to do, and that's a mistake.
And just as a PS to the relationship between Herbie and Rose, you have two songs, Small World, isn't it, and Together, in which it does humanize that relationship and explain to some extent Herbie's relationship with Rose until it finally breaks when he considers Rose pimping out her.
Exactly.
Well, and You'll Never Get Away From Me, which is, I think,
And you
possibly
can't-
my favorite song.
Exactly.
I couldn't get away from you, even if I wanted to. Well, go on and try. Just try. And you're gonna see how you're gonna not at all get away from me.
Because what's fascinating about Rose and why I think we love her so much is because she taps into something that we all feel, in which we push people away and then reel them back
Yes.
in.
And I do just want to clarify, why he stays doesn't surprise me. I also think there's habit there, like you're saying, the delusion. It's the moment of falling for her and deciding to hop on that I would say is like slightly, teased out more. But I also think, like you're saying, the interesting thing about looking at gypsies throughout the years is how much do we lean into this is a woman trying to do this for her children, or this is a woman trying to do this for herself through her children.
I'd like to turn the discussion to, and we've already touched on this, in defense of Madame Rose. And particularly in defense of Madame Rose as seen through the performances that we've seen. So, Andrew?
Well, I mean, I guess I should start this off by saying my dog is named Patty LuBone. Patty LuPone is my Mama Rose because she played Mama Rose when I was in my coming of age, when I was, in love with the musical theater and couldn't get enough of it. She's got that famous, that bite, the vocal performance is untouchable.
Everything's gonna be bright lights and lollipops. Everything's coming up. Roses for me and for you.
And she, in many ways, just like what you, in your story about Ethel Merman saying, "I'll kill somebody," it's like, yeah, like Patty LuPone has that gusto too.
And in real life, Mama Rose is believed to have killed somebody. The real Mama Rose killed somebody.
Well, I'd be
Well,
disappointed if she hadn't.
If
Someone who's willing to do what she needs to do.
we're talking
Here's
about
Ruthie, but she's so sympathetic and wonderful.
No.
we-
I just think that's not interesting for a character to categorize in any one way. Oh, she's an angel. Oh, she's a monster. If she's one thing, it's not interesting.
But I'll tell you though, where you finally have a modicum of empathy for her, because you've seen what she has done to everybody and her daughters. But Rose's turn is the moment, and when she finishes that song, and she said, "This is what I wanted, and I never got it," and she starts taking a bow to an imaginary
Yes.
audience.
It takes you 2 hours 45 to have a modicum of empathy
That's
for
right.
her.
It does.
She has me from the start.
But when she's taking that bow, and this is a fascinating thing. Ethel Merman, Patty, I'm sure Audra, people go through the roof if you hit Rose's turn.
Right.
It's one of the great showstoppers of all time. And there's the real applause. But then you realize all of your real applause is only
what's in her head.
deluded mind. and
Yeah.
she's
Well, that was a
taking
Lansbury
Yeah,
edition.
and she's
It
taking
was
it about to-
introduced in the Lansbury.
And she's
It was
taking it
not
about
in
to
the
an empty
original.
audience. She's taking it about to an empty theater. She's taking
Right.
it about.
Right.
That is where Arthur introduced it.
No,
One-
the audience participation in the delusion
Yeah.
is bar none.
One, do you find her sympathetic prior to Rose's turn?
Of course, I mean, I think some people I don't know if built to be a sympathetic number, but I mean, anybody who has ever found themselves in this studio has had drive at some point.
And who's your favorite Rose?
I mean, what you said about my Rose is interesting. I would think, even though Patty was the one I saw at first, I was a child. Imelda was the one who I sort of, cogently saw and saw her 4 times. She was amazing. But at the same time, I do find myself listening to the Angela Lansbury recording the most.
Yeah.
Because it has the most brass, which I love, in the orchestrations. And also because, I mean, from the grainy footage that is available to see and from what I can, interpret, she sort of had the old school music hall of that Merman, the score, that time period, while bringing in sort of like the psychology of the latter half of the 20th century. So she sounds, even just on the recording, what I know of her as an actress and what I've seen of her as an actress, I think she might have been the definitive
Well,
one.
Patrick, you saw her. What was the impression that she
I did
made
see
on you?
her. Angela was terrific. I mean, when she came down the aisle at the start of the show, the audience went nuts, and she continued to hold them in the palm of her hand to the very end of the show. I think she was warmer and maybe more vulnerable than Merman was. And I should give credit also to Tyne Daly's performance, which is considered by many people one of the best of the early Roses. Frank Rich, in his New York Times review, called her performance ferocious. Ruthie, your favorite?
Bernadette is the only one I've ever seen live, but in going through the cast recordings and any video recordings that we can, I think it would have been Angela. And I think it's because actually I find her extremely nuanced when you go from song to song clip, in that, speaking to like, is there ever empathy for her before Rose's turn? At first, you think she's just a strong woman defending her kids. That, I'm endeared to her. In some people, I'm like, oh, I get this woman. You start from a place of understanding. Then it flips a switch at some point, and it's different for every person. Was it when she did this? Was it when she did that? Or is it like Herbie when she pushes her to strip? Where on the trajectory do you find her actions have gone too far? And then you pull back again on Mama Rose with Rose's turn and go, oh, wait, you had changed my mind, now are you changing it back? Am I strong in my conviction? But I think Angela, the most maternalism to it, there are moments where I did feel like, oh, together wherever we go, I'm your mother. And then there are extreme moments of, I wish I could be a star, I'm gonna make it happen through you because that's my only way possible.
Where is that pivot point for you?
That's a good question. I think it's just before the Ganziger moment when June gets offered the real break. So it's not that moment. I think I recognized before that she's never letting her kids go and that they can't move.
The tyrannical aspect of her.
Because I think that's where I start to turn, and then it only progresses from there.
It's such a good moment because you were talking about the fact that they finally get a big break by the Ziegfeld type character.
Oh, Ganziger.
Ganziger. But he only wants June, and she blows it up. Madame Rose blows it up. And yes, you sort of turn on her in that way. We've been talking about the songs. What is your favorite song? And perhaps we should probably start at the beginning and the song Let Me Entertain You, which Sondheim hated to write. He hated to write performance songs. And he was stuck with having to write a performance song for the little girls, for Dainty June and Louise, and also had to write a song for the stripper as well. And then I think Robbins and he were walking down the street and said, just write something like "Let Me Entertain You." And he was able to kill two birds with one stone. And the other interesting aspect of this show that makes it phenomenal is that they had to write bad book scenes and bad songs.
Right.
And still being entertaining and on a sophisticated level. How do you suppose they did that, Michael?
Well, I think they immersed themselves in the third-tier world of vaudeville. You know, Broadway was the gold standard, and the people who didn't make it on Broadway were falling down to vaudeville and then eventually to burlesque. So these were not the top-tier performers. And I'm sure they did all their research, and Steve listened to the kind of songs that were written at the time. And he could write, which is a tawdry and cheap but wonderful song, which is the stripper song, "You Can Bump It With a Trumpet." You know, I mean, it's a brilliant feat of writing a song that is a song you're going to see in a sleazy joint, and you don't expect it to be good, and it's not, and yet it's brilliant.
If you wanna grind it, wait till you find it. If you wanna bump it with a trumpet.
Wait, so something you said that I have always found interesting about Gypsy is like when it takes place, right? Mama Rose is striving for this fame in the vaudeville circuit, but we know historically vaudeville did not even last, right? So it's like, so even in the best case scenario,
they're going to be out of a job.
Yeah, exactly. Her kids make it and they're famous. Even that would be fleeting, and she'd have to pivot again. I mean, she's pivoting the whole show. Oh,
But
we'll
I
do
honestly
this.
think like she's the person, she likes to pivot. She needs to pivot. She needs the striving rather than achieving is actually what I think keeps her going.
And I think
she's not happy when Gypsy is a star.
Correct. Her limitations are illuminated though through the types of pivots she makes, right? It's like she's not some genius, you know. It's just like, okay, we're gonna try this thing. I'm like, okay, girl, take off your clothes. And so, you know, I think maybe if she had more perspective, more vision, she would have been able to probably do a little bit more for her kids. But she's just operating on what she knows.
You know, a song I really admire because it has one of the great lyrics of all time is "Some People." It has some hum drum people I know. 3 rhymes in 1 stanza. That is Stephen Sondheim's genius.
It's amazing. His favorite song from the show is "If Mama Was Married." Few of everybody's favorite songs when you've got something like "Everything's Coming Up Roses."
Yeah.
Well, but I think it's not every hour of the day that I want to listen to like a barnstorming aria, right?
Oh.
Which is why you have my favorite person, maybe, "You'll Never Get Away From Me." It's just sort of smooth, beautiful song.
Yeah, I like that too. That's my favorite.
And I think it was the song that Julie Stein thought would become a hit because that's what they were looking towards. Everything's Coming Up Roses is a fascinating first act finale because when you hear it as a layperson outside the context of the show, you think it's just a really rousing, cheerleading song.
Sure.
It's the first hint of a nervous breakdown that we'll see in Rose's Turn. What do you think of that song?
It is my favorite song in the musical. It's probably the one I've listened to the most of the cast recordings. It just does it for me. You know, it is. This is not a great comparison, but it is to me like kind of like The Wizard and I of this show. That moment where you're like, oh, this is our girl. This is who we're watching tonight.
Right.
And it's a beast of a song with the acting and the singing and putting it all together. And then it's like, okay, and now she's got to go rest and go backstage and bring this thing home next act.
And Louise and Herbie are just there shell-shocked.
Right.
It's also really wonderful to see a mini breakdown before the major breakdown, because anybody who's had a breakdown knows, it doesn't all just come crumbling down all at once. There's some warning signs along the way. Yeah.
It's a fantastic song and a fantastic scene. If I'm ever able to, if I have YouTube, if I have a recording, I am going to start at the beginning of that monologue, because you have Herbie and Louise sort of saying, okay, no, this is the sign, we're done making all these plans to start a family, and then just in the corner, I'm used to people walking out. And then it just launches into this like self-righteous tirade.
Well, it's actually what's happening non-verbally. If you watch whatever, while they're making plans, while Herbie and Louise are making plans for, you want to know what? Here's what comes next. If you're watching the Rose, the calculation that's happening for her to make that pivot before, that's what leads to the song, actually, is that she's ignoring everything that is, we're listening to what they're saying. She is not. And so you have to be watching what's happening on her face to see the wheels spinning.
What makes this right for 2024, for this moment? Juan?
I mean, I think it's just a perennially solid musical. I don't think there'll ever be a time where I say, why now? As long as there's someone willing to play it and direct it, I don't think this show has ever lasted too long in any one run. So
yeah, I agree with you.
10 years after the fact, let's go again.
I'm always wary of trying to, let's make it contemporary now. It's a work of art. It stands on its own terms. It's durable in any age, and we don't have to tailor it to fit whatever's going on right now. Just leave it be.
Andrew, what new dimension do you think George Wolfe will bring to this musical?
Well, I mean, I think there's no one better suited than George Wolfe to direct the production. I mean, he's just a prolific man. And I feel so at ease. I sleep so well at night knowing he's directing this production. Listen, to be African American in America is a miracle after 400 years of slavery. So the fact that we live in a world where we have Audra McDonald playing Mama Rose, to me, is a marvel. And I think there's also the beautiful layer here to illuminate the Black version of vaudeville. So it's like, so now we get to see, hopefully, what was it like for Black performers in this space? And so I just wonder how that will play into this revival, if it will be addressed. I'm sure it probably will. Which also goes to, Dainty June being of lighter skin tone in this production, which is like very exciting to me, right? Because there is extreme colorism within the Black community, but then also in just being palatable for the world, for the white lens. And this is what we've seen with all of these early stars, Lena Horne. These are entryways into mainstream media and entertainment. And I'm really excited to see it play out in this revival.
June is biracial. Her father presumably was white. Louise is playing a Black character. Ruthie?
Well, just to build on what Andrew said, I think that when you're talking about two daughters, one favored, one not, that the light-skinned daughter is favored and the dark-skinned daughter is seen as not beautiful, right? Not star material. There's volumes that are spoken without saying anything. And I think George C. Wolfe has said, and Audra has said, like, the Blackness is embodied because we are Black bodies on stage. We're not changing words. The time period's not different. We're existing in this thing that was built, and it is going to read differently. The same way that when we saw Black actors take on Death of a Salesman, they didn't change a single thing in Arthur Miller's script.
But it
when
changes
you look,
for the audience.
Right, but it changes for the audience because we come in with our own context and our own baggage about, oh, what must that have been? No one's going to talk about colorism, but it is going to be there for us to see.
Because we know it exists.
Right.
We don't need to talk about it.
Daughter. And the fact that, Audra is darker skinned, can speak to her own complexities, her own insecurity, perhaps self-hatred from a world that is telling her that she isn't beautiful.
Correct. Think about that moment, though, when Louise puts the dress on and she looks in the mirror and she says, I'm beautiful.
Right.
Think about that moment.
I'm a pretty girl, mama.
Right, I'm a pretty girl, mama. And colorism, as you were saying, that was the entryway in was light-skinned Black performers, but that has not changed. Colorism is very, very real because she wants to see that side of blackness explored. And so the fact that you are quite literally going to have shades matters. The fact that Danny Burstein is white presenting matters. The fact that Tulsa, Kevin Sholak, who's playing it in this company, is white presenting. All of that matters. And in terms of it being 2024, I don't think it's, 2024, we're finally ready for a Black Gypsy, though that is also true. I don't think that's the reason. I think the reason goes back to what you were saying about why has it been done over and over again? Because Bernadette wants to do it, because Patty wants to do it, because Tyne wanted to do it, because whoever wants to do it. And Audra wanted to do this, and it's called Audra Gypsy now. Because that's how we talk about Gypsy in the culture. Gypsy, which Gypsy? Patty Gypsy, Bernadette Gypsy. Angela Gypsy, Audra Gypsy.
I think you're right, though. I think George, in his subtlety, will layer in racial issues. But I think Audra is one of the great Broadway stars of all time, and she wanted to do the part, and that's the reason to do it.
We have to wrap up, but you mentioned a good word. We all bring our own baggage into the show that we're going to see. Michael, what baggage do you bring into this production? What are you hoping for?
And what kind of baggage is it? Is it Hartman? Is it Toomey?
Well, I suppose for me it would be the unrelenting driving ambition that I had that just leaves people in your tracks.
And what happens when you run into a brick wall, like Mama Rose
You
does?
figure out how to climb over it.
That's a 6-piece set of luggage, Michael, that you brought in.
Yeah.
Boom! Knock them down.
Juan, what do you bring into this, and what are you hoping for in this new production?
What do I bring? I mean, I always think, you know, in my own life, I think, am I Mama Rosing this person? You know, am I doing something that I actually am just doing for myself, but under the guise of, you know, benevolence or whatever? What I'm looking forward is Camille Brown's choreography. I'm really excited to see what she does with it. I mean, like one of you mentioned, like it's the first time that we're not doing the Robbins staging, and from a historic point of view, I want to see what is she going to dig something up from the Chitlin circuit, and am I going to learn something about how those Black acts were dancing and performing in that time? I think it's really exciting.
Ruthie.
You know, I think I'm bringing less baggage. I'm not as precious about Gypsy, at least as the people in this room. It's not my musical. While I deeply respect it and everything that we've said here, and again, the construction, it's so strong. Like I will, you know, I'm not gonna say like, oh, your favorite musical is Gypsy, weird choice. You know, like that makes sense.
Do you hope it wins you over, perhaps?
I was going to say, like, I guess the baggage I bring to it is really
That you hate it.
No, I don't hate it at all. I guess, but a light skepticism. A light skepticism of like, will it work?
Great.
I think this is a crack team that's going to be able to do it, but you know, I've learned to just temper expectations so that you can fully immerse yourself in wherever it takes you.
Great. Andrew, you get the last word.
Oh, goodness. What I'm looking forward to the most is just partaking in the romance of Broadway, the amazing interconnectedness of our industry, and this is the moment that Audra's playing Gypsy, and the curtain is going to go up, and the audience is going to go crazy. And, you know, it's amazing to witness these theatrical moments, to have been there when.
You know, you really put your finger on it, Andrew, and that is that this musical has been so beloved by the theatrical community since 1959 and continues to be. And now it is just part of who we are. It's really deep in our DNA. And thank you very much. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
We are taking a short break. When we return, author Carolyn Quinn fills in the colorful biographical details of Rose Hovick, who would never win the Mother of the Year award, but who has won a fistful of Tonys for the actors who have played her. We are back, and I'm delighted to welcome Carolyn Quinn, author of Mama Rose's Turn, the biography of Rose Hovick, a true American original. Welcome,
So
Carolyn.
happy to be here.
It's good to have you with us. I want to start by asking you, if a person gleaned a portrait of Rose Hovick only from the musical, what would they be missing?
Well, I think she was a lot more human than she was in the musical, which was made up, 75% of it was invented by Arthur Lawrence, fictionalized. And I think she was a much kind of a nicer person. You couldn't get children to perform the way she did if you weren't a nice person. And also, I think she had a lot of some redeeming qualities, but also she drank too much of her own bathtub gin. So it was like kind of a, you know, alcoholic situation there going on too.
What you just said runs counter to the idea that's been bandied about that she was a monster. I gather that you disagree with that.
I think she had some bad qualities, but I think she also had some good ones, and it kind of balanced things out. And every story about her contradicts the other one, so you never know who to believe.
Well, when you had so many different lore and legends to deal with, how did you kind of winnow down what to you was the truth?
I just kept searching. I was going through old newspapers and finding articles. Some backed up the stuff that was being said, some didn't. And I just kept going. It took me 2.5 years of research in my spare time.
She was this complex and, as you say, contradictory woman. Your early chapter describes a woman of, I think, Wild Prairie Woman?
I think I called it Wild Prairie Rose, yes.
Wild Prairie Rose. How did that beginning foretell the kind of woman she would become?
She was out west. The family had settled in Farmington, Minnesota. And they were here for like 10 years, and then they owned a hotel. Immigrants, you know, they rose very quickly. German immigrants from Baden-Württemberg. They were very resilient. You could put them down anywhere, I think, in the world. You could put them down in a desert, and they'd sell something to the cactuses. They were so savvy and everything.
She eventually made her way, or her family made her way to Seattle.
Yes.
And in the musical, the father seems kind of fed up with Rose and isn't about to give her a break.
Not true.
In fact, her real father was very supportive.
He was very
not?
supportive. He financed the kids' costumes and things.
To what extent was she driven by money, and to what extent was she driven by fame for her daughters?
I really don't know. I don't think she was this lunatic looking for vicarious fame.
There's a disturbing story early on in your book in which she's fighting, of course, because she's always fighting with everybody all the time. And just to go on a tangent to some extent, why is she always in battles? Why does she always need to have a fight, Rose Hovick?
Maybe this was just her personality. She got off on it.
This was just her way
Perhaps.
of communicating. This was just her way of relating.
Perhaps, yes.
I'm going to fight with you.
Don't you dare disagree with me.
I think she was fighting with Mr. Hovick, who brings a baby kitten, or a kitten, home to the girls. Rose takes an axe and chops it up.
Yeah.
Was there something sociopathic about this?
Obviously, but people drowned kittens in those days too. And I'm not excusing what she did, but people drowned kittens if they didn't want them, abandoned animals. They had no rights, you know?
There was just a different mentality.
Of course, yeah.
But even so, again, you've mentioned that she's so contradictory because she always had animals in her shows,
Yes.
right? I mean, there's the famous little lamb from the musical itself.
She loved animals. At one point, she thought of moving to Seattle, and I believe drove across the country with a friend and I think 11 animals in the car.
So she just loved the company.
Including, like, I think, a Great Dane.
Do you think that she preferred animals to humans? Was that it?
Entirely possible, yes. If you're arguing with everybody all the time, you probably have a better track record with a dog than you would with a person, so.
If she wasn't driven necessarily by money or necessarily by fame, was she driven by ego?
I think she was more driven by trying to help her daughter June get ahead. I think this was a family that loved performing and loved vaudeville, and were just going along with it. I don't think it was this big, you know, plot on Rose's part, you know, to push these kids because she's unfulfilled and all this. That's Arthur Lawrence, and it's a wonderful, wonderful Broadway musical.
Do you think she loved her daughters?
Yes, I think she did. But she was also pushing them away the older she got, and like the more out of control she got. And then she would want them back. And there's all these letters that I found in the family's archive. I went through hundreds and hundreds of letters. And she was always, you know, there'd be some kind of a tussle, and then she'd be trying to win the daughters back, and either they'd come back or they'd ignore her.
One of the fascinating things about your book, of course, is that there is so much rich material that takes place after the musical ends.
Yes.
So that we get a fuller portrait of the relationship, as you just described,
Yes.
of this tussle, this
Yes.
compelling, come to me, go away from me.
Yeah.
But a lot of that came from the women themselves. We're fed up with their mother.
Yes, they've got to a point that they're fed up. And Gypsy Rose Lee put her in a beautiful mansion. I've seen it. I've been inside of it in Highland Mills, New York, and then another house. And Gypsy paid for it and everything. And then Rose was taking Gypsy to court for not supporting her, and showed up in mink and jewels and came out of a limo to go to court. And it was hard to figure out, is this for real, or are they all in this together as a publicity stunt, or what? That was one thing that went through my head when I was writing it. And I didn't really put that in the book, but I had to wonder.
It was performative, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Rose putting on a show. You don't sue for not having enough money from your daughter and show up in a mink. Hello. It's like, what is this?
June seemed to be all right with being estranged from Rose.
Yes.
She seemed to have a better time of it, not talking to Rose for years at a time,
Yes.
I believe. Gypsy Rose Lee, Louise, had a more difficult time separating
Too
from her
enmeshed, yes.
What was the source of that codependency? Why you would think Gypsy Rose Lee could just say, enough, I'm done with her, forget about it. What kept her coming back for more?
Well, Rose was constantly writing her letters. And sometimes she was threatening to tell things to the press, you know, embarrassing things to the press. I think Rose just wouldn't let her go.
There's an amusing story, again, in your book, and that is when June finally may make her Broadway debut. She gives her mother a opening night ticket to
Yes.
see that, Mom, I've come out of vaudeville, I'm legit. And what does Rose do?
She sold it.
She sold the ticket,
I think she's very fed up with June at that point.
and she doesn't show up, obviously.
Obviously, she does not show up.
Because it would absolutely be in character that she would somehow sell the ticket and still worm her way into the
Yes.
show. Do you think Rose Hovick would make of the musical Gypsy?
I think she'd love it.
Why?
It's about her.
She was always a con artist to some extent, you know, because she was always scheming. She always had a plan. She always had a pivot to do something else.
Beats the heck out of not having a plan, I guess.
In the book, you bring up 3 rumors of her murdering people.
Yeah, because they're out there, yeah.
But you found no conclusive proof that she shoved a manager out a window,
Nothing
or that
anywhere.
she shot a lesbian girlfriend.
Oh, that's a story I go into in the book. You know, she was cleared of that.
She was a person of interest, however, in this
Initially, yeah,
death
but
of the woman who.
well,
with
it
the
happened in
black-
her house.
Right, in the upstate house,
Yeah.
the mansion
Yes.
that you referred to earlier.
Yes.
It was a rifle shot.
Yeah.
Was it eventually ruled a suicide?
Yes.
And then she pulled a gun on the young man that June ran away.
No,
Yeah.
she didn't.
Oh, okay.
This
correct.
is why I talk about the gospel according to June. She didn't. She was in the police station. June had gotten married. She'd eloped. They found the guy she had eloped with. He's in the station. June's hiding somewhere. And Rose starts saying, I have a gun in my purse. I have a gun in my purse. This is in a police station. You're going to tell me she pulled a gun in a police station? So according to the newspapers in Kansas where it happened, they just, the police confiscated the gun. End of story.
Who had the best grasp of reality among the 3 of them?
I would say Gypsy Rose Lee.
And why do you suppose that is? Why do you think she escaped you know, the fantasy world that she was brought up in and was able to relate on a human level either with her children or with her co-workers and everything else?
I think she just had her feet more firmly on the ground. And she was also supporting her mother, her aunt, her grandmother. She had a lot on her plate that she took on just cheerfully and did it. And I think it kind of made her more human.
Do you think that the fact that she came out of burlesque also made her more human?
Possibly, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that moment, because it's the seminal moment in which she becomes Gypsy Rose Lee. The musical obviously tells a certain story.
Yeah.
Was it pretty much accurate the way it happens as it does in the musical?
Pretty
or?
much, but it wasn't the mother pushing her and shoving her. She just agreed, you know, to go on. She'd do it. And she was, I think, very proud of herself that she was getting the chance.
We have to wrap up, but I wanted to end
Yeah.
our conversation on this very complex and contradictory woman, as you mentioned. But something that comes totally clear is that Rose's favorite time of the year was Christmas time.
Yes.
And she made sure that the kids had wonderful Christmases when they were on the road with her. What was the source of that? Why was Rose Hovick so gung-ho over Santa Claus?
She just really did it up for those kids. She made a wonderful Christmas for them every year. The kids loved it. I think, again, it was like you have to give these kids a good time if you want to keep them performing.
She would travel with ornaments. She would travel with all these animals.
Yeah.
But she would also travel with...
With ornaments, or she'd store them somewhere and have them sent to her. And I found friends of hers up in New York State, and she had them over for Christmas dinner the last year of her life and everything, and a huge tree and presents for them.
Well, Carolyn, congratulations on this wonderful book, which, like the subject it covers, is a real stem winder.
Thank you.
And have a very happy Christmas. I don't know if you have any Christmas ornaments that may have come down to you from Rose Hovick.
Actually, one of the family friends that she had the last Christmas with gave me one. So I do have it somewhere, yes.
And do you put it on your tree every year?
Of course.
Well, good. More tinsel to add to the story of Rose Hovick.
Haul out the holly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. We look forward to bringing you more fascinating conversations with creative artists who live only to astonish us. Be sure to download the new CUNY TV app to watch all our shows, also available on YouTube. I'm Patrick Pacheco.